The story of American violence is often told through the lens of its sprawling cities, New York, Chicago, the Bronx. But the hard data tells a different story. The deadliest places in America, by gun homicide rate, are not the cities we imagine, but quiet rural counties far from the media's glare. In 2024, the Bronx ranked 161st in the nation for gun homicide rate, a fact that shatters assumptions about where the greatest dangers lie. This forces us to reconsider everything we think we know about murder in America. The factors driving lethal violence, poverty, lack of opportunity, and easy access to firearms aren't confined to city limits. They're American problems, festering in forgotten corners as well as urban centers. Holmes County, Mississippi, for example, has a gun homicide rate that dwarfs the Bronx's. The national conversation often focuses on cities, funneling resources there while more violent regions are overlooked. Gun violence respects no boundaries. It's a national crisis demanding a national perspective. The Bronx's story is just one chapter in a much larger book, a community grappling with its own demons, but part of a nationwide epidemic. Its lower ranking offers clarity, not comfort. Progress is possible, but the real story is more complicated than city versus country. To solve urban murder, we must acknowledge the wider troubling landscape of violence across America. Only then can we begin to address the true scope of the problem. While New York City saw a drop in overall crime in 2024, the Bronx moved in the opposite direction. Major crime in the Bronx climbed by 1.4%, reaching its highest level in over 2 decades. Murders were up nearly 43% since 2019, with robberies and assaults rising over 40%. The progress of previous decades is eroding, replaced by volatility and fear. Yet, in 2024, murders dipped slightly, 114 compared to 120 the year before, a fragile sliver of hope. But shooting incidents rose by 6%, and more people were hit by bullets than ever. The Bronx is saturated with firearms and simmering with disputes that too often escalate from fists to bullets. It's a borough of contradictions, a dip in murders, a surge in shootings, falling behind while the rest of the city improves. For residents, the fear of violence is a daily reality. The Bronx in 2024 fought a war on 2 fronts: long-term decay of public safety and immediate explosive violence. The statistics are more than numbers. They're the measure of daily fear and loss. Behind every statistic is a human story. In 2024, the Bronx was rocked by high-profile murders that brought the borough's struggles into sharp focus. The gruesome discovery of Colin Small's remains in Highbridge, the double shooting of Claritha Daniels and Justin Lawless, and the killing of Saku Saho on Sheridan Avenue, each added trauma to the community. Violence seeped into homes too. A man fatally shot his mother and stepfather before taking his own life near a daycare. The year ended with the tragic shooting of 17-year-old Xavier Navarez in Mott Haven, a symbol of stolen potential. These stories are more than headlines. They're the faces behind the numbers. They remind us what's at stake in the fight for a safer Bronx. Each loss is a call to action. To understand Bronx violence, look beneath the statistics to the conditions that allow it to flourish. Gun violence is highly concentrated. Specific neighborhoods, a small number of rival crews, long-standing grievances, territorial disputes, and the drug trade fuel cycles of retaliation. The iron pipeline of illegal guns from other states turns minor disputes deadly. Decades of neglect, underfunded schools, and poverty create desperation and hopelessness. For many young people, the streets offer the only path to power or respect. The violence is a symptom of deeper systemic failures. Until we address crew rivalries, illegal guns, and poverty, the cycle will continue. Public safety depends on a visible, proactive police presence. But in the Bronx, that line has thinned dangerously. Between late 2023 and early 2025, the borough lost 258 officers. A major blow for a community facing a historic crime wave. Fewer officers mean less proactive policing, less community engagement, and more reactive responses. The hardest-hit precincts, like the 46th, feel the loss most acutely, struggling to contain surges in violence. Detectives are overwhelmed, investigations suffer, and clearance rates drop. Criminals feel emboldened by the reduced police presence. You can't control rising violence with a shrinking force. The thinning blue line is a warning. Resources matter in the fight for safety. Shootings in the Bronx aren't random. They're concentrated in a handful of neighborhoods and precincts. The 46th precinct, covering Fordham and Morris Heights, saw a 14% increase in shootings in 2024. A small number of rival crews drive most of the violence. Precision policing targets these individuals and locations, moving away from broad, inefficient strategies. The Every Block Counts initiative brought city resources to high-crime areas, aiming to fix not just crime, but the environment that allows it. Still, entrenched crew conflicts mean arrests alone aren't enough. Law enforcement must be paired with community-based intervention. Violence interrupters and credible messengers can mediate disputes before they turn deadly. Real change requires both targeted enforcement and trusted community partners. Only then can the cycle of violence be broken. Homicide rates and shootings are just the tip of the iceberg. Since 2019, property crime in the Bronx has exploded. Auto theft up 237%, theft of auto parts up 769%. These aren't minor losses, they're devastating for working families. Low clearance rates erode trust in law enforcement and breed cynicism. Open-air drug markets and quality-of-life crimes add to the sense of disorder. Even the subway, a lifeline for millions, has become a source of anxiety as transit crime rises. The ripple effect of crime infects every aspect of daily life. Tackling violence requires restoring a basic sense of order and safety. The fight isn't just about murder rates, it's about reclaiming the community. A holistic approach is essential. The response to these challenges must be strategic, not desperate. Leaders are pushing to restore police staffing in the hardest-hit precincts, making community policing possible again. Precision policing focuses on the small number of individuals driving most violence, rather than casting a wide net. Dedicated detective units are proposed to tackle the surge in auto theft and property crime. Community violence intervention programs use credible messengers to mediate conflicts and connect at-risk individuals with services. The most promising solutions combine law enforcement with community-based efforts. By investing in both, the Bronx can move toward a safer, more hopeful future. There are no quick fixes, only sustained, multifaceted action. The story of violence in the Bronx is about more than police and perpetrators. It's about all of us. Safety is co-produced by residents who refuse to accept violence as normal and reclaim public space for peace. Engagement means reporting suspicious activity, attending community meetings, and supporting organizations that offer alternatives to the streets. Every act of civic participation strengthens the social fabric. The problems of the Bronx are New York's problems, and America's. Systemic issues like poverty and lack of opportunity require citywide and national solutions. We must look beyond headlines, advocate for investment in struggling communities, and see the humanity behind the statistics. The final call to action: don't turn away. Seek out real stories, support local news, and follow the work of those dedicated to change. The fight for a safer Bronx requires an informed, active citizenry. Be a witness, an advocate, and a participant in building a more just and peaceful society.